Hey everybody, I'm the Solo Scaper. This past Friday, we had ourselves another Renegade Con. Another group of new reveals, new releases from Renegade for Heroscape. Very excited to go through all of these with you. Crazy that the last First Thoughts video I did, those figures haven't even come out yet. They won't be out until August. And here we are, another big crop of figures to go through that will be out in October. And with emphasis on big, there's quite a few to go over today. So let's get right into it. First up, we have the Dreadnots of Caraway Cavern. Originally called the Dreadnots of New Tortuga for the Avalon Hill campaign, these pirates have been very hotly anticipated for a long time as our second pirate bonding squad after the Knaves of the Silver Scimitar. 2 life each. That gives them significantly better survivability than the rest of the pirates. 6 move, which is very good. These guys, you have these big, bulky, big boys carrying big old weapons, and 6 move seems crazy, considering the other pirates that look significantly faster are slower. But I'm not going to complain. That reminds me of the Tanuki Tricksters with that 4 defense. It's just one stat that just seems pushed. Kind of out of nowhere. I get the 2 life, they're bulkier. The 3 defense is, very average for melee. Very average defense in general. 3 is just standard for attack and defense. But for pirates, it's quite good. So, 3 attack, 3 defense, 80 points. 80 points, they were 100 in the Avalon Hill campaign. Now, granted, in that older version, they had 4 attack rather than 3. So there's a trade-off there, but I like 80 points. I like that price point better, if you will. Like the Knaves of the Silver Scimitar, they have the Captain's Way and Captain's Orders, meaning they get a slight defense boost from staying close to their captain, and they can bond with their chosen captain or any pirate hero you control. Don't forget they can bond with any pirate. Definitely comes in handy, especially when you're using people like Killian Vane or Cornelius Breach. Now, their unique ability is Mortal Blow. After attacking an opponent's figure, roll 1 attack die for each wound inflicted in that attack. For each additional skull rolled, inflicts 1 wound on that figure. That's really impressive. That'll do some mean stuff to heroes especially, but it also means that other multi-life figures, squad figures, they have a really good chance of knocking them out immediately. If one of your Dreadnots damages a Frostclaw Paladin, for instance, you have a 50-50 shot of finishing it off right then and there. So that's really impressive. I think Mortal Blow is going to be a pretty deadly effect, especially when you pair them up with the new pirate hero we're getting, who, to me, is even more exciting than the Dreadnots. We have Crimson Widow. Finally, another Einar figure, our first since Fia Bonnie, and Crimson Widow has an awful lot to offer. So let's go through her and see just what she's bringing to the table. Stats are pretty average. 5 life, 5 move, 1 range, 4 attack, 3 defense. So that 4 attack is nice to have, but everything else is perfectly average. 150 points is steep, but I think the power is justified. So, first up is Hire Crew. At the start of the game, you may choose a unique squad in your army. For this game, the chosen squad's class becomes Pirate, replacing the class listed on its army card. That is the coolest thing I have ever seen. That is so cool, so thematic. The option to pull any unique squad into all of the synergy web that the pirates have created is super, super neat. I'm reminded of Parmenio's Disciplined Influence, influencing a figure that doesn't fit in your archetype and getting to fit into there. But in Parmenio's case, he's just helping his buddies get +1 defense for disciplined army defense bonus. For Crimson Widow, you give so much more than that. There are a ton of pirate synergies with Admiral EJ-1M, with Bob Burnham, and with her herself. So let's look at these other abilities. Pirate Commander. While there's an order marker on Crimson Widow, that doesn't say revealed or unrevealed, it just says while there's an order marker on her. So even if you're not using her, throw the X on there. While there's an order marker on her, all pirates you control increase their attack value by 1 when attacking adjacent figures. That is insane. Just all of them. Just, no matter where you are on the board, they get +1. That is so... I think that's devastating. So really, what you get with Higher Crew and Pirate Commander is you are choosing any unique squad in the game to not only join your army and not mess up your synergies, but also get +1 attack for free. It's only adjacent, of course, so you can't, like, if it was any, then that would just be stupid. Can you imagine bringing in the Airborne Elite, giving them 4 base attack and shooting across the board? Nah, be insane. So Pirate Commander and Higher Crew, I think that is likely strong enough to justify her points by itself, but then you also have Midnight Raid. Before taking a turn with Crimson Widow, you may reveal the X order marker on this army card to choose up to 2 pirates you control within 6 clear sight spaces and move them up to 3 spaces each. I like that a lot. Any extra development that you can give is great, especially since she is likely to be bonding. And this doesn't say... So a lot of effects like this say after revealing an order marker before taking a turn. She doesn't require that, which means if she is chosen as captain for the Dreadnots or the Knaves, then you can reveal that X and get extra development for 2 pirates. I think there's a lot of utility to it, but it's also not why you brought her. You brought her for that Pirate Commander and Higher Crew. So let's talk about some options. A lot of people online really like pairing her with the Izumi Samurai, and I think that's a great call. Midnight Raid allows you to advance those samurai and get them into good defensive positions where they really shine. And also, without having to commit an order marker to them. And also, it gives them that +1 attack. Going from attack 2 to attack 3 is very important, and it means they could actually get some kills. So really, any of the samurai squads would benefit. I think the Tagawas with her would be downright frightening. You start with 4 attack, 5 defense, and then as they get those experience counters, they could get up to 7 attack each. Woo! That's scary stuff. But it's a very high point investment. In Classic, the Tagawas are 120 points, so that's 270 right there. I generally play 400 point armies, so that's pretty high. And haven't even gotten into other synergies and other support. So, who I'm looking at, I immediately looked at the Ninjas of the Northern Wind. These are one of my favorite squads from back in the day. I loved ninjas and pirates as a kid because I am, a 2000s kid. So of course I love pirates and ninjas. So the idea of putting the Ninjas of the Northern Wind into my pirate army and have them be pirates running around with 5 attack thanks to Pirate Commander, that's scary, that's fun. I really look forward to trying that out. But on the other hand, I did want to bring up a unique squad of orcs from Valhalla Customs. You have the Brute Gruts. The Brute Gruts are a very, very strong group of orcs. 5 move, 1 range, 3 attack, 4 defense. When attacking a common figure, they get 1 additional attack. So that's 3 + 1 for Pirate Commander is 4, + 1 when attacking a common is now 5 attack. And Berserker Frenzy. Once per turn, after attacking with the Brute Gruts, you may place a Berserker marker on this card to attack 1 additional time with them. Subtract 1 from the Brute Gruts' defense value for each Berserker marker on this card. A maximum of 3 may be placed. So, at a cost of their defense, you can have them attack more and more often. And if they have extra attack, and if they get some off-turn development, the Brute Gruts with Crimson Widow is a very scary proposition, one that I might have to try out. But that's really the most exciting thing about Crimson Widow is just how many options are there. In Age of Annihilation, we have a ton of unique squads. The bears could be pirates. I like the idea of polar bear pirates. The Necrotech Wraith Riders, I mentioned them before. I really like that idea. I feel like that might be even better than them with the rest of the Eisneck, because they have really good move, a little bit more survivability, so they can tie up your opponent's figures with chain grab and stuff while you wait for your main crew to approach. So that's a fun prospect. So Crimson Widow is one that I'm very excited to get my hands on, and I think there's a lot to discover with her and see who will really best benefit from her abilities. So keep your eyes open on Crimson Widow. She's great. Next up, we are going to move into the Heroes of Arborious hero pack, which continues to flesh out the Beast and Wizard faction for Age of Annihilation. I'm a little disappointed. I like everything we did get, but I'm a little disappointed that they added 2 beasts and 3 wizards. The beasts were already outnumbered, so now in total we have 4 Age of Annihilation beasts and 6 wizards. And really, I feel like any army where I bring a wizard, I would want to bring 2 beasts with a single wizard often. Just to make sure to keep up flexibility and to be able to consistently use them throughout the game. But, you know, we did get some cool stuff, and one of these wizards doesn't need one of these small medium beasts. So let's go through it right now. So first up, Chana, the Zenith Wing. We have a small, merciful beast with 3 life, 5 move, 1 range, 2 attack, and 3 defense for just 30 points. So right in line with the other beasts, stat and points wise. She has stealth flying, which is great. Let her fly around without getting tied down and heal where she needs to be. And speaking of healing, Renew 12. If Chana the Zenith Wing it is within 5 clear sight spaces of a wizard that you control, instead of attacking, you may roll the 20-sider. If you roll a 12 or higher, you may remove 1 wound marker from a friendly wizard or beast adjacent to Chana. So, I like it. I think at 30 points, she's really easy to include in any wizard army, just because of how cheap she is. The only problem I see with her is the fact that if you're taking a turn with her, you're not taking a turn with a more offensive beast. Now, granted, the Age of Annihilation beasts aren't offensive, just as a rule. Key to the Spring Runner is decent at grabbing glyphs, but little else with 2 attack. Chana right here only has 2 attack. Anshu is great. Anshu can do something. He has 3 attack, and then he has his special attack, which is still only 2, but at least he can do it a couple times. So right now, Anshu is your only real option for an offensive beast. So, it's tough. I honestly think I mostly like the Dryan and Beast army because of Otar. Otar is just that good, where I want to include him in every army, and he's just amazing. And he really fills a niche for this army that none of the others are filling yet. But anyway, definitely getting off topic. Chana is solid, and I think especially save her for late game to come in and help heal up your wizards, but don't rely on her for too much, because Renew is only going to trigger, on average, about half the time, a little bit less. So, I think 30 points, perfectly reasonable. Next up is Vrano the Bramble Tooth. Right here, this is what I was talking about not getting an offensive beast. not getting a strong attacker among the beasts. 3 life, 5 move, 1 range, 2 attack, 4 defense for 45 points. The point value is pretty high for the stat line, I think. But, let's look at this ability together. Sharp Thorns. If an enemy small or medium figure moves onto a space adjacent to Vrana the Bramble Tooth where that figure could end its movement, you may roll the 20-sider. If you roll 12 or higher, the figure ends its movement and lowers its attack value by 1 until the end of the current turn. If you roll an 18 or higher, that figure also receives 1 wound. That's really cool. Setting Vrano up in a choke point, and then just leave him there, using his Sharp Thorns to delay enemy melee attack. I don't know about this guy. He looks very weird. The sculpt on him and the other thorny guy are both very odd to me. Just a little hard to wrap my heads around. And again, I just wish he had some amount of attack. I would even if he went up to 55, 60 points just to get 3 attack, I think that would be, that would feel a lot better just so we get something else for this army that I really enjoy playing. Sharp Thorns is great though. Sharp Thorns is very strong. A lot of melee bonding armies will really struggle into him because, or at least for as long as he survives. And if he gets shot, it's over. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about this guy. So let's move on. It's a good idea. All right, Gairusha, the Grove Keeper. This is Vrano's best friend from back in the day, but Gairusha got chosen to be a wizard, and Vrano did not. He is stuck being a beast. So let's check it out. 6 life, move 5, range 1, attack 4, defense 3 for 90 points. Okay, slightly above average life and slightly above average attack. Sounds pretty good. As with all the other wizards, he has Command Familiar, and he has Wicked Thorns, which is a strictly superior version of Vrano's Sharp Thorns. When a small or medium figure moves adjacent to Gairusha, you may roll the 20-sider. 10 or higher, that figure ends its movement and lowers its attack value by 1 until the end of the turn. If you roll an 18 or higher, the figure also suffers a wound. So that's good stuff. He also has Reach. Reach, famous from the Fen Hydra, who is somebody that we're going to mention a little bit more later in this video. If an enemy figure is within 2 spaces of Gairusha, and its level is no more than 9 levels above or 3 levels below his level, Gairusha may add 1 to his range value when attacking that figure. So I like this guy. I like this guy quite a bit. Excuse me. I like him so much, and I haven't even talked about his last ability. Gift of the Forest. At the end of the round, if he's next to a tree or bush, you may remove 1 wound marker from this army card. It is guaranteed off-order marker healing, which is always great. It does require terrain to make use of it, but that doesn't bother me too much. I think this is good stuff. So I think he's really solid. I think he's a lot better than Haluchot. I love the 4 attack. So, and he is strictly better than the Beast. So, will you want both of these in the same army? Doubtful, but, it could be interesting to keep them together and have it to where your opponent is forced to move between them and then get hit by 2 sets of thorns, potentially lowering attack value by 2, potentially damaging them, maybe up to twice. That's cool. So, I like the wizard army, but these 2 thorn guys, I'm a bit meh. So let's move on. Next up, someone who I am not meh about at all is Haluchot, Mind Whisperer. Haluchot has 6 life, 5 move, range 1, attack 1, defense 3. So same stats as Gairusha, except for that attack. What the heck? Only 1 attack? This guy's garbage. What a garbage hero. Well, you just wait, Buster. After revealing an order marker on Haluchot Mind Whisperer, before taking Haluchot's turn, you may take a turn with a small or medium beast you control. Good old Command Familiar on all the Dryan wizards. Next up, Staff of Kurupiran. When rolling attack dice for a normal attack, Haluchot always adds 2 automatic skulls to whatever is rolled. That's pretty insane. We've never seen anything like that. Not even close. That is really, really cool. Haluchot has a effective attack value of 5, which is really high for a medium hero. Compared to a regular 5 attack hero, though, he trades attack ceiling for consistency. You won't be able to kill a 5 life hero in a single turn with this guy, but you will deal at least 2 damage every single turn, and sometimes 3. So I think that's really interesting, and I'm really excited to try that out. Then you have Haluchot's Whisper. What this reminds me of is the Mind Exchange from Doctor Doom. After revealing an order marker on this army card and taking a turn with Haluchot, you may choose a unique hero within 2 spaces of her. Roll the 20-sider, adding 3 to the roll if you control that hero. If you roll a 16 or higher, take temporary control of that hero and immediately take a turn with that hero. After taking the turn, control of the chosen hero returns to its previous owner. Any order markers that were on the chosen figure's army card stay on the card. That's so crazy good. 1 out of every 4 turns, you can take a bonus turn with one of your guys, or potentially steal an opponent's figure for a turn. That's so strong. And then you're also working with a beast, so perhaps Haluchot is taking 2 turns with her beast. That's fun. I like, extra turns with Otar, and then you get Otar running up, attacking somebody, throwing somebody in range of the Whisper. That's fun. I'm just saying, Otar's my guy. And Haluchot is super cool. Very exciting figure. I like all those abilities. That stat line is very interesting. I like interesting stat lines. I like unusual stat lines. Next up, we have Haluchot, Corruptor of Beasts. 5 life, 5 move, 1 range, 3 attack, 4 defense for 125 points. This is meant to be the Grand King of the Dryan army. But she follows Utgar, so that's fun. An arrogant wizard following Utgar. Arrogant, previously only used on Iron Man. Just a bit of trivia for you there. And she is large, so that's interesting too. All the other wizards besides Haluchot, the centaur, is medium, so that's interesting. Instead of Command Familiar, Haluchot has Command of the Wild. After revealing an order marker on Haluchot before taking her turn, you may take a turn with up to 2 small, medium, or large beasts you control. So any 2 of those familiars, and you get to add 2 more beasts to the possible retinue. The Swag Rider, who is generally the support beast for the Arrogruts, or, much more excitingly, the Ice Troll Berserker, which is the D&D beast. This guy absolutely gives the teeth that I keep complaining about the Dryan army not having. 5 attack, healing every turn, potential for additional move. The Ice Troll Berserker is a pretty scary dude, and Haluchot being able to command 2 of them, or 1 and Shana to keep them healthy, or 1 and Vrano to lock down enemy positions while your Ice Troll wallops them. That's fun stuff. I think that'll be a very strong army. And we're not even close to being done. Staff of the Longhand special attack, range 6, attacks 2. You may use this attack before or after using her normal attack. So that's fun. You have a ranged plinker. A ranged plinker combined with bonding is always really great, especially bonding with 2 of them. So you're getting, up to 4 attacks a turn. That's impressive stuff. No, her normal attack and Staff of the Longhand, neither are particularly strong, but you get to do them both. I'm happy with that. Calm the Beast, which is just basically an extra power. While defending against an attack from a beast, she increases her defense by 2. That's cool. If Mimring tries to fireline her, she'll be tough against it, but not hugely relevant. And then flying, which is always welcome. So Haluchot is really exciting. Honestly, so from this pack, Shana is okay. I don't really care about the 2 Thorn guys, but they seem solid, but they're not as exciting to me, but Marichot and Haluchot are both very cool. Looking forward to getting my hands on them. So now that that is clear, I'm going to move on to the common packs. First up is the Great Bow Archers. We have a 2-figure squad of giants, of precise archers, and I am a big fan of 2-man squads, honestly. I think that they're an interesting design space. I know that traditionally they've been quite weak for only having 2 attacks, but I don't know why. I've always been a fan of them. Another reason I love the Tanuki Tricksters. And these guys are wild. So first off, this is a 2-life squad. This is a 2-life common squad. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. You can fill up your board with these. You're getting a ton of life. I don't know. That's a little scary. But if you think about it, 80 points for a 4-man squad is generally pretty reasonable. So, and you're getting the same amount of survivability, albeit in a slightly different way. There's been a lot of complaints about 2-life commons. I'm okay with it. I'm gonna suspend judgment. I don't think that these guys are all that strong to get worked up over about it. But let's continue on. 2-life, 6 move, that's high. Range 7, that's really high for Age of Annihilation. 3 attack, 3 defense for 80 points. And then their ability, Long Shot Specialists. When a Great Bow Archer that has not moved this turn attacks a figure at range 4 or greater, add 1 to her attack. If the target figure is at range 7 or greater, instead add 2. So this is an interesting variant of Wait Then Fire that only works at range and works best if you're at maximum range or, if you have the glyph to give extra range, beyond that. But in general, max range for max power. The problem is that's going to be really hard to use, and I think the Great Bow Archers are going to be... It's just hard to predict how these guys are going to do, because I think skilled opponents will be able to stay away from them and then charge in and avoid the higher damage range, the higher damage radii. I think these guys are going to instead be a kiting squad, and Long Shot Specialist is going to very rarely come into play, which is a shame to me because that's their only ability. So not really thrilled about these guys. I think they're good. I think their stat line is really strong, but just not one that particularly gets me excited, even though they do seem competitively. Yeah, just not a squad that gets me excited. But these guys, the Scions of Aaria, little dueling dragons, little adorable dragons. That's exciting stuff. We have a pompous squad of Scions. These guys have a life of 1, move 5, range 1, attack 2, defense 2 for 75 points. That stat line looks just like the Revenant Acolytes, who, if you remember, I didn't much care for that stat line at first, and I don't much care for it here either, but let's suspend judgment. Cleave to the Mighty. At the start of the game, choose an Archmage, Dragon, King, or Queen, unique hero you control, to be the liege for all Scions of Aaria you control. Before taking a turn with the Scions, you may take a turn with their chosen liege. That is super cool. There's a huge variety of units that they can bond with. You can bond with New Sonlin, Old Sonlin, Sudema, Queen Kyrian, and all of the dragon heroes. That's a very interesting group of bonding options, and I like it. I like that there are lots of options for these guys. And Cleave to the Mighty is a really cool name anyway. Then their other ability, Draconic Breath, special attack, range 4, attack 2. Only figures within 3 clear sight spaces of their liege can be targeted with Draconic Breath special attack for flying. This is really hard to judge how these guys are going to be. Let's compare them to the obvious comparison from D&D, the Greenscale Warriors. The Greenscales have a very similar ability where you choose a specific dragon to be their lizard king, and they bond with them for the rest of the game. There are a few key differences, though. For one, the Scions are a little bit more expensive for worse stats. So, strike 1. Strike 2, loyalty to the Lizard King, grants the Greenscales additional attack and defense when their chosen Lizard King are close. So that's strike 2 against the Scions. So, the bottom line is the Scions of Aaria have a lot of maneuverability and a lot of flexibility in terms of who you pick as their liege. And Draconic Breath is a ranged special attack for a squad, so that's not nothing, but you're limited to your targets and it's only range 4. So that 75 points feels steep to me. 70, 65 maybe. But then, that might be too cheap, because once you can start massing these guys, that's when they become really strong. It's an interesting comparison. Again, I'm really excited to try these guys out. I'll definitely try to get 2 to 3 squads of them, just because of how freaking adorable they are, is the main reason. And I never had enough Greenscales to make a Greenscale army work, so bonding with a dragon is inherently cool. So I think I'm probably being overcritical to these guys. I think that 75 points is worth it by just having bodies to put between your opponent and your dragons, especially with their other benefits. So very excited to try these out. The next set is the Gallery Vanguards along with the Kraken Ling, and here is where I get excited. I like these folks a lot. Gallery Vanguards, let's jump right into the stats. 1 life, move 5, range 1, attack 3, defense 2 for 65 points for 4 figures. That's actually, looking at it now, that is right on line with the Knaves of the Silver Scimitar. The exact same stat line and point total. So let's see how they differentiate. Let's go into the special abilities. Title Advance. At the start of each round, after placing order markers, you may move each fierce and unfathomable figure you control up to 1 space for each of your order markers on the Gallery Vanguards. These guys are a common squad, so potentially you can fill your army with Gallery and move, 8, 12 figures up to 4 spaces at the beginning of every round. That seems a little busted. That seems a little busted. I don't know, guys. I don't know about that one. And it's not just the Vanguards. It's not just them. It's each fierce and unfathomable. Unfathomable is not a personality we've seen before. We saw Inscrutable in VC with Zithoth, and, that's a darn shame that they picked Unfathomable instead of Inscrutable, but what can you do? Can't complain too much. And Unfathomable will be the Kraken Ling forthcoming, but we'll talk about him in a moment. Fierce, though, the galleries themselves are fierce, and so is Iwashia. So I'm thinking about an interesting mixed wizard and gallery army. I think that could be a lot of fun. I love Iwasha in general. She's one of my top from Age of Annihilation so far. Next ability is Defend the Deep. A Gallery Vanguard adds 2 to its defense value when it is on a water space, or when it defends against an attack from a figure that has height advantage. So that gets these guys up to 4 defense, which is that golden point for melee squads. And they can do it for a lot cheaper than some of the other squads in the past. And then finally, Swim. Vanguards do not have to stop their movement when entering a water space. That is a rename of the classic Slither, which I like Swim. I'm perfectly happy with that. They needed a more generic version, considering not all figures that can swim are slithering. So That's cool. So, very excited for these guys, but not as much as their big brother, the Kraken Ling. The Kraken Ling. We have an unfathomable monster and a common hero with 3 life. Not 2, 3. When the Grave Grim was revealed, I got excited about him being a 2-life common hero. I was not expecting them to go higher than 2, though. So, Renegade, you surprised me. And the Kraken Ling, I think, is insanely good. So let's go through these stats, go through these abilities, and see why I think that they're pretty easily the most powerful figure of this wave coming forward. So, as before, 3 life, 4 move, weak, range 1, attack 4, which is a little strong, defense 5, which is very strong, especially for Age of Annihilation. Defense has generally been lacking, so clearly that shell is coming in handy. So, Warp Space. Instead of moving normally, you may place a Kraken Ling on an empty space within 4 spaces. If it is engaged, it will take leaving engagement attacks. So, yeah, you only have 4 move, but that's just teleportation. It's not flying, you're not moving around, you just teleport. Teleport through walls, teleport up onto overhangs, anything. Warp Space is kind of crazy. And then you have Eldritch Switch. After moving normally... Oh! Here we go. See, this is the fun I get to have, because I am understanding stuff now that I hadn't before. After moving normally, a Kraken Ling may switch spaces with an adjacent single-space figure. Figures moved by Eldritch Switch never take leaving engagement attacks. You cannot Eldritch Switch after Warp Space. That keeps it a little bit under control, because Eldritch Switch looked to me really busted already. But that keeps it a little bit more in line. You have to move up to them normally to switch them. Very strong ability still, though. The Warforged soldiers had a similar tactical switch that was very good. Putting that on a single space common hero is fun times. Fun times. You're not going to be able to get height against this guy for long. He'll teleport out of there. He'll switch with you. You do not get high ground against the Kraken Ling. And then Flailing Tentacles. A Kraken Ling may attack up to 3 times on its turn. Reduce the number of attacks by 1 for each wound marker it has. We've got another Fenton Hydra, boys. That is exciting stuff. And then, just like the Gelry, the Kraken Ling also has Swim. So let's talk about the comparison between the Kraken Ling and Fen Hydra. Twice in one video, here I am making a very direct comparison between a current Age of Annihilation unit and a Dungeons & Dragons unit. What that feels like to me is Renegade wanting to bring some of the Dungeons & Dragons ideas more fully into the Heroscape canon. Because the D&D sets had a lot of really great powers and abilities, but they didn't... The canonicity of them was always a bit up for deliberation. And some of the sculpts were a little off scale. There are various issues with the D&D stuff. Personally, I did not play with the D&D stuff at all when it first came out. There are a few, such as the Fen Hydra, that I bought since then that I thought were particularly cool. But overall, D&D is definitely my weak point when it comes to Heroscape knowledge. But Fen Hydra is not part of that. It is awesome, and I know it and love it. One of my 400-point league armies, Red Flag of Fury, uses the Fen Hydra along with Krug and Ornak to start each round, sending forth 2 great big hitters, potentially getting 6 attacks in a turn. Tons of fun. The Fen Hydra versus the Kraken Ling. Whose cuisine reigns supreme? Iron Chef reference for you all out there. So let's compare the Hydra and the Kraken Ling. The Hydra has +1 attack rolls and life, +1 defense, +1 move, and usually +1 range with the reach ability, which I just mentioned, bringing D&D ideas into Renegade canon. Reach was copied almost verbatim over to Gairusha, so that's really cool to see. The The Hydra is 120 points versus the Kraken Ling's 85. The Kraken Ling has Warp Space and Eldritch Switch, and it gets the movement advantage from the Gelry, and it's a single-space figure compared to Fen Hydra being a double-spaced. So, if you want raw power, you go with the Hydra, but the Kraken Ling is cheaper and significantly more mobile, with a lot of interesting tools to let him move around. I think it's hard to vote for the Hydra. I think I mean, I might be underestimating the difference between 5 and 6 defense. I probably am. 5 defense doesn't go quite as far as you'd want it to. And 3 life is small. I think there will definitely be games where you whiff and your Kraken Ling just gets smashed immediately. But it's a common hero, so you don't have to worry about keeping your cards separate. You can just put all your order markers on one Kraken Ling and move all 4 of them. Not on a single turn, of course. It gives you an amount of order marker flexibility that uncommon heroes do not get. So if you want the power, you go with the Hydra. If you want the flexibility, you go with the Kraken Ling. And I think 85 is undercosted. Like, just compare the Kraken Ling with the Scions of Aaria. Obviously, they're going to be in very different armies. They have very different ideas. But for just 10 more points, you get double the attack output, similar movement flexibility, and significantly higher survivability. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the Kraken Ling is busted, and I'm very excited to get him on the table. So with that, we've come to the end of the regular Embers of War releases, but we do have one more upcoming promo. This is a pre-order bonus for all of the Embers of War releases, and it is also a organized play promo for the next couple months. The Deflectatron. This is a common hero, so they are making a common figure into a promo, so they're trying to encourage people to get a bunch of them, which it's an unexpected call, but it's interesting. So let's go through his abilities, because this is a weird dude, and I don't really know how I think about him yet. But 1 life, 4 move, 1 range, 3 attack, 4 defense for 25 points. Perfectly normal common hero stats. Orbital deployment 3. Figures with the orbital deployment special power do not start the game on the battlefield. At the start of a round, before placing order markers, you may place 1 Deflectatron that has not entered the battlefield on an empty space within 3 clear-sided spaces of a friendly figure. You cannot use it more than once each round. This is now the 3rd figure, if I count correctly, in Age of Annihilation that doesn't start the game on the battlefield, along with my dear sweet Vorids. But this is very strong. You don't have to roll for it, and is any empty space within 3 clear side spaces of a friendly figure, so you can drop him right next to your opponent. Very interesting stuff. Passive. A Deflectatron never makes leaving engagement attacks. That is a downside, a strict downside. And it prevents you, I'm sure, from using orbital deployments to drop him in and lock down opponents' positions for free, because that would be a bit busted, so I totally understand passive. Finally, the reason you're getting this guy and the deflect in Deflectatron is the Magnetic Deflector Shield. This is one I've read and reread many times, and I'm still really trying to wrap my brain around exactly how it works, so let's work through it together. Figures adjacent to 1 or more Deflectatrons cannot determine clear sight to any figures. Determine clear sight is not the same as line of sight targeting. What this does is it prevents you from making ranged attacks when you're adjacent to Deflectatron, but it also shuts down enemy auras. Raylin, and figures within 4 clear sight spaces. If you drop the Deflectatron next to her, she can't see out of that bubble, and she would not be able to use that shield. So that's a very interesting idea. He is passive. He can't lock down your opponents, but if you manage to drop him in the middle of, a middle of a ranged pod, or next to your opponent's strong cheerleaders with auras, he shuts them down until they deal with them. So that's an interesting idea. When a figure adjacent to one or more of your Deflectatrons defends against an attack from a non-adjacent figure, change one die result that was not a shield to a shield, if possible. Notably, that is when a figure, not a friendly figure. That's the weirdest thing about Magnetic Deflector Shield, is that it applies to you and your opponent equally. If I drop the Deflectatron next to my opponent's Raylin, it shuts down her aura, but if I try to shoot at her, the Deflectatron is defending her. So it's a weird catch-22. And the figures you most want to defend with this type of effect are your own figures with auras that he would shut down. So that's a bit snaky. So who you most want to defend it with him? And then I find it really baffling that the Magnetic Deflector Shield does not apply to him himself. And Magnetic Deflector Shield is negated while adjacent to another figure with the Magnetic Deflector Shield special power. They override each other. You got, the same polarities. They're forced away. Interesting stuff. I feel like I really would need to play with this guy to get an idea. I like that he's a guard. He's a melee Soulborg, which means there are a couple of armies he can fit in very quickly. I'd love to try him out with Q11 and the Hoplotrons. I'd love to try him out, potentially, with Sudema and the Crypt Guardians. That's a fun idea, too. But overall, yeah, this guy's gonna take some thoughts to figure out how to use him. But I'm not opposed. It just, I think he's a complicated figure and one that I'm excited to try out because I got no clue about this guy. I like the sculpt too. The fact that he has 3 heads, 3 arms, 3 legs. Just a neat idea. A neat idea for a figure, and one that I definitely had no clue what to expect, and still have no clue what to expect from his performance. So, that was a very long video, but I thank you so much for listening. Overall, the Embers of War releases are weird. And I mean weird in the best way. I like the weird stuff. I like armies that make you think. The new pirates are amazing. I've looked forward to them for a long time. The wizards and beasts, Marishot and Haluchot, are both really cool. The other 3 I'm a bit more iffy about. I can't wait for the dragon babies, and I can't wait for all of the Gelry and the Kraken Lings. So overall, I think not quite as strong a wave as Boiling Tension, but Embers of War has a lot of really interesting stuff, and I'm excited to get a hold of all of these commons. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing, and always remember, Heroscape is yours.